On March the 19th, a United States Air Force F-35A was struck by what is believed to be Iranian ground fire while flying a combat mission over Iran. The pilot made an emergency landing at a regional airbase in the Middle East. The aircraft cost upward of $100 million. No F-35 has ever been confirmed hit by enemy fire in the aircraft's operational history. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps released footage within hours claiming responsibility, recorded through what appears to be an electro-optical and infrared tracking system. United States Central Command confirmed the emergency landing but would not confirm the cause. Navy Captain Tim Hawkins, a Central Command spokesman, said only that the incident is under investigation. That careful language matters. Because hours before this jet limped back to base, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told reporters that Iran's air defenses had been flattened. The same day those flattened defenses produced the first confirmed hostile strike against the most advanced stealth fighter ever built. Either the assessment was premature, or Iran retained mobile air defense capabilities the coalition has not yet located. Both explanations carry implications for every combat sortie still flying over Iranian airspace. The Guard Corps claimed it struck the F-35 at approximately 2:50 in the morning local time and described the damage as severe. Iranian state media broadcast the engagement footage. Open-source intelligence analysts examined it. The account known as OSINT Technical assessed that the video interface matched known Iranian electro-optical systems, that the footage did not appear to be artificially generated, and that the post-impact physics were too complex for simulation software like ARMA or Digital Combat Simulator. That assessment is not definitive proof, but it is considerably more than a propaganda claim backed by nothing. Central Command confirmed the aircraft was American, not Israeli. Both nations operate F-35 variants in this conflict, and the F-35 was not the only target hit that day. Within the same 24 hours, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps spokesperson General Ali Mohammed Naini was killed in a United States-Israeli missile strike. That is the latest in a decapitation campaign that has now removed Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, security coordinator Ali Larijani, Basij commander Gholamreza Soleimani, intelligence minister Esmail Khatib, and now the Guard Corps spokesperson, all in 21 days. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araqi responded directly. He said he does not understand why the Americans and the Israelis have not grasped that the Islamic Republic has a strong political structure with established institutions, and that the presence or absence of a single individual does not affect this structure. Whether that claim holds under sustained leadership removal is the central unanswered question of this war. What is documented is that the officials who had the institutional standing and cross-factional relationships to negotiate a ceasefire, Larijani and Khatib foremost among them, are now dead. Israel also struck Iranian naval targets in the Caspian Sea for the first time since the war began. The Caspian Sea borders Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan. All previous coalition strikes against Iranian naval assets were confined to the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf. Extending operations into the Caspian places Western military activity directly adjacent to Russian territorial waters. Moscow has not responded publicly. Iran launched 5 separate missile salvos at Jerusalem and northern Israel within a single hour on March the 19th. The Haifa oil refinery, operated by the Bazan Group, took a direct hit from Iranian ballistic missiles and confirmed damage to essential infrastructure. That strike was a direct response to Israel's attack on South Pars the day before. And across the Persian Gulf, Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Kuwait were all intercepting drones and missiles in the early hours of Friday morning during Eid al-Fitr, the holiday marking the end of Ramadan. Stay with me, because the F-35 strike is not an isolated incident. It exposes a specific technical vulnerability in the air campaign that the Pentagon has not addressed publicly. The F-35 Lightning II is the centerpiece of a program that has cost more than $1.7 trillion over its lifetime. The aircraft was designed around low observability, commonly called stealth. Its radar cross-section is engineered to make it virtually invisible to conventional radar-guided surface, to air missile systems. The airframe deflects radar energy. The coatings absorb it. On a radar screen, the F-35 registers as an object no larger than a marble. The entire theory behind American air supremacy in this war depends on one technical assumption: that Iranian radar cannot reliably track, lock, or engage this aircraft. For the first 20 days of Operation Epic Fury, that assumption held. The coalition flew thousands of combat sorties over Iran. No manned American aircraft was confirmed hit by enemy fire. The losses that occurred came from friendly fire and unclear mechanical causes. Here is the problem. The F-35 stealth defeats radar. It does not defeat systems that do not use radar. Tyler Rogoway at the War Zone has been reporting on this specific vulnerability since the opening week of the war. Iran fields road mobile air defense systems that rely on passive infrared and electro-optical sensors to detect, track, and engage aircraft. These systems do not emit radar signals. They do not broadcast energy that the F-35's radar warning receiver can detect. They track heat signatures instead, engine exhaust, thermal friction from an airframe moving at high speed through the atmosphere. Because these systems are entirely passive, the F-35's threat detection suite receives no warning. The missile is in flight before the pilot registers the engagement. Rogoway wrote that fourth-generation fighter aircraft operating against these systems would have no idea they were being attacked until they were struck, unless they visually identified the missile launch. The F-35's distributed aperture system provides better situational awareness than an older jet. But the detection window against a passive infrared system firing from a concealed position compresses to seconds. The margin between detection and impact is measured in fractions of a minute, and these are not fixed installations visible on satellite imagery. They are road mobile. They operate from overpasses, warehouses, civilian infrastructure. They relocate after every engagement. The coalition has struck more than 7,000 targets inside Iran, fixed radar sites, command centers, ballistic missile launchers, naval vessels, air bases. A truck carrying an infrared-guided missile launcher parked under a highway bridge in western Iran does not appear on a satellite pass. It does not emit a trackable signal. When an aircraft enters range, it fires. The United States Air Force declared air supremacy over Iran early in the campaign. That declaration assumed the destruction of Iran's integrated, radar-based air defense network. But air supremacy over fixed radar installations is not air supremacy over every threat in Iranian airspace. Iran spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario, the systematic destruction of its fixed defenses followed by sustained coalition air operations. The road mobile infrared systems are the specific answer to that preparation. They were designed to operate after everything else has been destroyed. They were designed for week 3 of a war that the Pentagon said would last 4 days. And this produces a cost exchange problem that no amount of air supremacy rhetoric can override. Each F-35A costs between $80 and $100 million, depending on the production lot. Each combat sortie over Iran requires aerial refueling from KC-135 Stratotankers, which cost approximately $40 million per airframe. The road mobile infrared systems Iran is using cost a fraction of that. The exact unit price of Iranian electro-optical air defense platforms is not publicly known, but passive infrared guided missile systems in this class typically cost between $1 and $5 million per launcher. One successful engagement against an F-35 imposes a 100-to-1 cost ratio in Iran's favor. Even unsuccessful engagements that force the F-35 to take evasive action, expend countermeasures, or abort a strike run degrade the sortie generation rate that the entire campaign depends on. The math does not require Iran to shoot down F-35s regularly. It requires Iran to make every sortie more expensive, more cautious, and less productive than the last one. That is a fundamentally different kind of air defense. It does not try to win the sky. It tries to make holding the sky unsustainable. The F-35 hit needs to be placed alongside the full picture of American aircraft losses across 21 days, because no official briefing has presented these numbers in a single frame. On March the 1st, 3 F-15E Strike Eagles were shot down by a Kuwaiti FA-18 in a friendly fire incident. All 6 crew members ejected safely. The cause remains unexplained. On March the 12th, a KC-135 Stratotanker crashed in western Iraq during combat operations. All 6 airmen were killed. Their dignified transfer was held at Dover Air Force Base on March the 18th. Central Command said the crash was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. The cause has not been established. 5 additional KC-135 tanker aircraft were reportedly damaged on the ground at a base in Saudi Arabia by Iranian missile strikes. President Trump appeared to confirm this in a social media post on March the 14th. 12 MQ-9 Reaper drones have been lost since February the 28th. Air and Space Forces magazine reported that the F-35 is now one of approximately 20 United States Air Force aircraft known to be damaged or destroyed in this conflict. 20 aircraft in 21 days. The Air Force has not sustained this rate of loss in a combat campaign since the early stages of the Vietnam War. The assumption behind Operation Epic Fury was that stealth and precision would eliminate attrition math. Iran's mobile infrared defenses are reintroducing that math one sortie at a time. The contradiction between official statements and battlefield evidence is now undeniable. Hegseth stated on March the 19th that Iran's air defenses have been flattened. On the same day, General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the military remained on track and was striking deeper into Iran every day. But Kane added a line Hegseth did not. He acknowledged that Iran retains some missile capabilities. When the defense secretary says flattened and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs says some on the same day that some produced the first hostile strike on an F-35 in history, the distance between those two words is where the real assessment lives. But the F-35 was not the only escalation on March the 19th. The energy war between Iran and Israel crossed a new threshold, and this is the part that reaches into the daily life of every person watching, regardless of geography. Israel struck Iran's South Pars gas field on March the 18th. South Pars produces roughly 75% of Iran's total natural gas output. It is the largest gas reserve on the planet. It shares a geological reservoir with Qatar's North Field, the same gas deposit, two countries extracting from it. Israel struck the Iranian side. Iran retaliated by striking the Qatari processing side at Ras Laffan Industrial City, the largest liquefied natural gas facility on Earth. Then Iran struck the Bazan Group refinery complex in Haifa, damaging essential infrastructure. Both ends of the same gas deposit attacked within 24 hours by opposing sides of the same war. Qatar condemned both strikes. That is the position Qatar now occupies. Its shared resource damaged from the north by its security partner Israel, its processing facility damaged from the south by its neighbor Iran. No country on earth has been put in a worse energy position by a single day of combat. Both sides are now openly targeting energy production infrastructure. Iran's position is explicit. Tehran warned of zero restraint if its energy facilities are attacked again. Trump told Netanyahu to stop striking Iranian oil and gas. Netanyahu said Israel would comply. But the retaliatory chain was already in motion. Brent crude hit $115 a barrel on the morning of March the 20th, according to CNN, nearly 50% above pre-war levels. The Ras Laffan strike cut approximately 17% of Qatar's liquefied natural gas capacity, with estimated annual losses near $20 billion and a projected 9% hit to Qatar's gross domestic product, according to Al Jazeera reporting from Doha. The European Council responded with an urgent call for a moratorium on all strikes against energy and water infrastructure. That call came from the same European allies who refused to send a single warship to the Strait of Hormuz when Trump asked. Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius gave a 7-word answer: "This is not our war." France hedged. The United Kingdom said it would not be drawn into a wider conflict. Greece, Italy, Spain all declined. Not one allied nation has committed forces. They will not fight this war. But they are begging both sides to stop destroying the energy infrastructure their economies depend on. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed to Western-aligned shipping. The United Nations International Maritime Organization held a 3-day extraordinary session and announced it would begin negotiating a humanitarian corridor to evacuate approximately 20,000 seafarers stranded in the Gulf. Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez did not provide a timeline and did not confirm whether Iran would cooperate. More than 20 oil tankers, cargo ships, and other commercial vessels have reported incidents in and around the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman since the war began, according to the United Kingdom's Maritime Trade Operations Agency. And here is the part of the Hormuz closure that most coverage has not framed correctly. Iran is not blockading the strait indiscriminately. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araqi stated on CBS that the Strait of Hormuz is open, but only closed to American, Israeli, and Allied vessels. Others are free to pass. And Tehran has been proving it. Pakistani, Indian, and Turkish-flagged vessels have transited safely. China is in direct negotiations with Iran for guaranteed passage of crude and Qatari liquefied natural gas shipments. France and the United Kingdom have reportedly opened back-channel talks with Tehran about securing their own vessels. Every allied nation that negotiates directly with Iran for safe passage is implicitly recognizing Iranian authority over the waterway. Every successful transit arranged through Iranian channels is a quiet rejection of American control. Iran has converted the strait from a military choke point into a diplomatic sorting mechanism that is actively separating American allies from American leadership. Washington is offering its partners the privilege of becoming combatants. Tehran is offering them the privilege of becoming customers. The energy disruption feeds directly into food security. The Fertilizer Institute has stated that nearly 50% of global urea and sulfur exports, as well as 20% of global liquefied natural gas, a critical feedstock for nitrogen-based fertilizers, transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Those fertilizers produce the staple crops that supply more than 40% of global caloric intake. The United Nations World Food Program has warned that this conflict is driving significant long-term increases in global food prices, echoing the 2022 crisis triggered by the war in Ukraine. In Zimbabwe, fuel prices have passed $2 per liter for the first time, a direct consequence of Hormuz disruption felt 9,000 kilometers from the nearest missile strike. In Washington, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was accused of altering her Senate testimony on Iran, allegedly omitting intelligence details that contradicted Trump's claims of an imminent Iranian threat. That accusation matters because the legal justification for Operation Epic Fury rests on the assertion of imminent danger. On February the 27th, one day before the strikes began, Oman's Foreign Minister Badr al-Busai announced that a breakthrough had been reached in nuclear negotiations. Iran had agreed to never stockpile enriched uranium, to accept full verification by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and to irreversibly downgrade its enriched material to the lowest level possible. Al-Busaidy said peace was within reach. Talks were scheduled to resume on March the 2nd. They never resumed. The strikes began on February the 28th. The Pentagon has requested more than $200 billion in war funding from Congress. Republican lawmakers have openly questioned the amount. The first 6 days alone cost more than $11 billion. The White House has ruled out banning crude exports to ease domestic prices. The humanitarian toll is accelerating. The Iranian Red Crescent Society reported more than 18,000 civilians injured since February the 28th, 204 children killed, 3 million Iranians displaced according to the United Nations. In Lebanon, more than 1,000 killed since March the 2nd, more than 2,500 wounded, 13 United States service members dead, roughly 200 wounded, 10 seriously injured according to Central Command. The war began with a stated American timeline of 4 days to total capitulation. Kevin Hassett, Trump's chief economic advisor, extended that to 4 to 6 weeks last weekend and insisted the administration was ahead of schedule. Israel's military has contradicted that, announcing at least 3 more weeks with thousands of targets remaining. Netanyahu said publicly that air power alone is not sufficient. You cannot make a revolution from the air, he said. There must be a ground component. He declined to specify what that means, but the statement exists. And it represents a fracture inside the theory this war was built on. If air supremacy alone cannot produce capitulation, and the air supremacy itself is now being contested by mobile systems the coalition cannot reliably find or destroy, then the campaign faces a compounding problem. The foundation is cracking at the same time the leadership is publicly questioning whether the foundation is sufficient. Meanwhile, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Okinawa and the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group are heading to the region. A United States official confirmed the deployment to CNN. That is an amphibious assault capability. It is not configured for air operations. It is configured for ground insertion. Whether that deployment represents contingency planning or the beginning of a ground option, no official has said. But the hardware is moving. The question is no longer whether Iran can threaten American air power. As of March the 19th, that question has a documented answer. The question is, how often Iranian road mobile infrared systems can reproduce that result before the cost of sustained air operations over Iran shifts from theoretical risk to operational constraint? How many F-35 sorties get modified? How many strike packages get rerouted? How many pilots start flying at higher altitudes to avoid infrared engagement envelopes, and what that altitude change does to weapons accuracy and mission effectiveness? The defense secretary said flattened. The chairman said some. On the same day, some hit an F-35. The distance between those two words, flattened and some, is where the real trajectory of this war will be decided. No government involved has publicly reconciled them, and that gap should concern anyone paying attention. Share this with anyone following this conflict. A United States F-35 hit by Iranian fire for the first time in history. The Guard Corps spokesperson assassinated. The Haifa refinery struck. 5 missile salvos at Jerusalem in 1 hour. Brent crude at $115. 20 American aircraft damaged or destroyed in 21 days. 3 million Iranians displaced. And the system built to guarantee air supremacy just proved it has limits no one in Washington will acknowledge. Thanks a lot for watching. Join the discussion in the comments. Do you think the F-35 hit changes the trajectory of this air campaign? Do you think the war is getting out of hand? Let me know. Please subscribe and like the video if you want to stay updated. Click the video on the screen to see another.